If you are what you say you are, a superstar, then have no fear. The camera's here and the microphones, and they wanna
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. A fresh, cool young Lou trying to cash his microphone check 212. Wanna believe my own hype, but it's too untrue. The world brought me to my knees. What have you brung you? Did you improve on the design? Did you do something new? Where your name in on the guest list? Who brung you?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens, Riptide Media Networks. Shout out to the Bleacher Brothers, where we're broadcasting that. Shout out to Football Game Plan, where you can catch us on their Facebook channel. You can obviously catch us everywhere. Rate us, review us, love us, hate us, give us five stars, but make sure you keep it spicy. You can tell it's been a while. I am already rusty on the intro. I'm happy to be back, happy to be here. Like I told you the last time I talked to you, a couple spotty days over the next few weeks with the show as we try to get these vacation days in before we lock back in full steam and give the people what they want. If you haven't already, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're on the YouTube, whether you are on my YouTube channel or on the Bleacher Brothers YouTube channel, if you are following me on social media, whether that be Twitter or X, Instagram, Facebook, make sure you go ahead and like, follow, retweet, reshare. Try to, give it to the masses the way it's supposed to be. If you see me wearing a cap, it's because my hair is kind of raggedy. I got it in braids, and the braids are a little worse for wear. And, nobody really needs to see that. And so we're here right now. It's the beginning of the summertime, which for a lot of high school and even college football players, that means it's back to the grind, back to the summer workouts. Summer workouts are where you win games at. It's not in the fall. It's not at camps. It's not at combines. It's not at 7-on-7s. It's at your summer workouts. It's at your summer workouts where you get in the weight room and you throw around the iron. It's at your summer workouts where you condition hard so that you don't have to condition in the fall. It's at your summer workouts where you're implementing in plays, where you're getting better, where you're learning your craft, your position individually, where you are sharpening the tool that everybody can make as sharp as possible. We always say it, it's old cliche, but doesn't matter how big you are. Doesn't matter how fast you are. Doesn't matter how high you jump, how much you can bench. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get beat by somebody that does. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get beat by somebody that does. And so if you are a coach and or a player, either coaching and or on a team that has not been successful, the way you get to the highest level of success that you can have is to make the least amount of mistakes. And the only way to make the least amount of mistakes is to be mentally prepared better than your opponent. That doesn't mean that your opponent's not going to beat you if they just have better talent, right? It doesn't mean that if you're an offensive lineman and you're 5'9", 5'10", 215 pounds, 185 pounds, it doesn't mean you're not going to get ran over by that 6'4", 285 pound defensive tackle that's going to Pitt or that's going to Georgia. It doesn't mean that if you're a 5'7" cornerback that has moderate speed but nothing blazing, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get mossed by that 6'4", 185, 190 pound wide receiver that's going to Alabama. That's not what it means. It means on a play-in, play-out basis, that guy's going to have a hard day. On a play-in, play-out basis, because you know what you're doing and you understand it better than what they do because they've been living off of their athleticism, you're going to make it a hard day for them. Because technique, more often than not, wins out. Technique, more often than not, wins out. I remember a few summers ago running around on the 7-on-7 circuit, not the travel 7-on-7, but high schools, you know, right? Where high schools actually go against each other. You know, the way it used to be before they made these 7-on-7 circuits, where now they play for teams that are not their high school team. But I was rolling around the high school circuit, different schools that had 7-on-7s, and this one high school locally here in Savannah was killing it. Every time you looked up, they were winning a 7-on-7. They were making noise. Everybody said, "Ooh, you got to watch out for them. You gotta. They're going to be much better this year." But that wasn't the case. You know why? Because 7-on-7 is not real football. 7-on-7 is its own game, right? And while you can play 7-on-7 to like build up competition and get your guys, competition, that's all well and good. You want to build camaraderie, that's well and good. You can do all of that playing 7-on-7. You know what you can't do playing 7-on-7? You can't recreate real football because everybody's quarterback has poise in the pocket when nobody's rushing. And everybody's wide receiver has the balls of steel to come across the middle when nobody's going to hit them. And everybody can respond when they don't have on shoulder pads and the helmet, right? Because it's a different world when the shoulder pads and the helmet come on, right? Not the lowers, that really doesn't matter, right? A lot of that is placebo, although some of it is useful. If it just matters if you get hit there, right? But the shoulder pads and helmet, it changes. It changes the way you can hold your arms. It changes the way you can move your head. It changes how much weight you have on you. Have you prepared for that level of weight? And then it allows a defender to know that you can be hit. And all of a sudden now, you don't catch the ball as cleanly as you used to. You don't throw the ball as crisply and on time as you used to. You're thinking about other things. You can't play those three defensive backs at linebacker in real football. Because when you do, we just turn around, hand it off, and run down your throat. You can't go 7 DBs in real football. You can do that in 7-on-7. And every time I see teams do it, I go, oh, okay, they're just trying to win the 7-on-7. They're not using this to try to get better. You can't run your running back through the offensive line in order to have them run a route. That's not real. And because it's not real, I don't do it. Anything that doesn't happen in real football in 7-on-7, I don't do. So there's a good chance that I'm not going to be out here winning your 7-on-7s. That's not the point of it for me. The point of it for me is to get better at the things that we can transfer to August and September and October and November and God willing December. And if we can't, then I'm not doing it, which means I need to see my linebackers cover. I need to have them covering people. And I don't need to just have one of them cover and nobody else covers. If I have 3 linebackers on the field and that's my base defense, then guess what? All 3 linebackers need to know how to cover in zone and they need to know how to cover in man. That means that if my wide receivers are running routes They're going to run routes that they would run in a real game with real timing. Not because the quarterback has all day to throw it, right? But because it's supposed to come out when it's supposed to come out. And it doesn't matter to me my quarterback completed the pass if the read wasn't right, because I know in a real game there's a defensive line in front of them, and they're not going to have the time to hold it to wait for that route to come open when that route was open already. These are the ABCs. These are the ABCs of summertime football. Here in Georgia, you can have OTAs, right? You can have one a month. That's a time where teams come together and they get a chance to practice together. You get real hitting, right? You get real physical, real contact. Those matter to me more than the 7-on-7s matter. Why? Because we get a chance to see, hey, do these schematics hold up against other teams? If the answer is yes, then we're on the right track. If the answer is no, then I know as a coach, we might need to do some different things. Right? We might need to do some different things. Doesn't matter the level of talent you're up against. Because most likely, if you're not a high-level team, which most high school teams are not, you're going to find teams that have similar talent. They might be better here and not better there, and you might be better than them here, but it's similar talent. But the great part about it is this is real football. You're running a play versus a defense that doesn't know what's coming, and they're running a defense trying to hit you with something that you don't know. It's a quick chess match. That's why I never understand why coaches don't want to have spring games. Number one, here's my philosophy, right? And again, I'm not saying that you should only do what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't understand it. Because in some places, if you don't have a spring game, like a legitimate spring game versus another opponent, you just have a scrimmage, then you can have an extra scrimmage game in the fall. Here's the problem with that. Why do I want another game in the fall that adds more hits to the bodies of my team when I'm trying to get through a season? Right? Now, some people might be, well, if they're going to get hurt, they're going to get hurt. Yeah, that's cool. I get that. But I don't have to help the situation. 10 games is a lot of football still. It's a lot of football. That's why I don't get down with the travel football, the youth travel football teams that are playing like a full season, then going and playing like in a tournament where they play like 4 games in a weekend or 5 games in a weekend, and then turn around the next weekend and play another 5 games as if that's good for these itty bitty bodies. I don't like it. I don't rock with it. I don't subscribe to it, but it's out there. So in football, in high school football, where we have some regulations on what you can and cannot do, I get a scrimmage and then I get a 10-game season. I'm praying that we see what we see in our scrimmage so we can get up out of there healthy. I'm praying that we perform really well in our non-region games, but that we come out healthy so that we can get to our region fully intact and ready to go. I can tell you personally, we did not do that last year. Last year, before we ever got to a region game, we were already down several bodies. That matters. That matters. And that turns what could be a decent season, not a great season, not a phenomenal season. It turns what could be a decent season into a season where people worry about whether or not you're doing what you need to do in order to be successful. Because nobody is just willing to say, hey, we just don't have that good players, right? Nobody's willing to say that. One thing that I've learned since I started coaching and working in the media is that people are legitimately afraid to say what needs to be said. They're afraid to say the obvious. They're afraid to say the things that just make sense, right? Not outlandish, not crazy, not, oh my gosh, this is a hot take, or this is political. They're just afraid to say the things that make sense. I want to give a disclaimer. If you are somebody who believes that when people talk about race, they're talking about politics, they're making it political. If you're somebody that believes that every time race comes up, it's a tune out for you, like you don't want to hear it, this ain't going to be the episode for you. This isn't going to be the episode for you. I can tell you with a full and open heart, I don't have a stitch of racism in my body. Not a stitch of it. Maybe to my detriment. Maybe if I had a little bit and I could say things just to be salacious, I might run the numbers up. Because that's what it feels like people do. But I don't have any racism in my heart. What I say comes out of what I see and what I feel. Right? It comes out of what I see and what I feel, with the idea that things don't have to be this way, or that if they are this way, they're this way for a reason. And I accept that reason. I am the person who is 100% okay with knowing who the racist is, who the sexist is, who the bigot is, right? I want to know who that person is because I want to see you for you. That way I know what's coming. I know what to deal with. What's better than knowing what it is you're dealing with? I say nothing. Nothing's better than just knowing what you're dealing with. And so, again, I preface this by saying, if you are somebody who has an issue whenever there's a real legitimate discussion about race, this is not going to be the show for you. I pray that you come back tomorrow. I pray that you come back tomorrow. I pray that you stick with me. I pray that you can see that my heart is pure. But if you don't, I'll be all right. If you don't, I'll be okay. As sad as it might seem, it won't be the first time. But there's things that I feel like I need to say that have been on my heart. I haven't been on the air to share with you. So now is my time to share it. But we'll also talk about the NBA Finals. We'll also talk about the NBA Finals. We'll also discuss the WNBA. But within all of that, I'm telling you right now, there will be things about race discussed. So if this isn't your bag, if you're like, oh my gosh, he's making it about race again, no shade, no harm. Feel free to click that in button or that, right? Move on. We'll get back to it again. But if you're here and you like to have legitimate discourse about the intersection, because remember what Talk Spicy is about. It's about the intersection of sports and culture. If you like to have that conversation, then you're in the right place today. You're in the right place, and I'm here to have it. On X, somebody mentioned about people crying about private schools. People crying about private schools. I had mentioned, hey, I can agree that people complain. I don't know about people crying about it. I felt like that was a shot, right? And they hit me up and said, hey, I was talking about a particular person. I said, I understand, but it sounded the way it read the way it read, right? Again, I don't have an issue with this gentleman, but here's what the entire conversation was about. It was where the issue is. It was about private schools, right? It was about private schools, people complaining that private schools stealing and or poaching the talent from public schools. Public schools who aren't working with the same resources. And so this person was comparing what was going on in Atlanta, where you see a lot of like public school to public school jumping. The only problem with that comparison is that in Atlanta or in the surrounding various counties that make up Atlanta, there are haves and have-nots in the public school ranks. And not for nothing, there are haves and have-nots in this place in Savannah, in the public schools. I can tell you without any problem, there are public schools that have it, and there are public schools that don't. And the funny part about it is, right, if we're really having a great conversation about what would be best for the students, for the student athletes in the area, in every area, it would be an even distribution of the talent. It would be an even distribution of the talent. And here's why. Because an even distribution of the talent means that more talent would have more time to shine, therefore have more opportunity to market themselves to the next level. An equal distribution of talent would make the competition better, which would then make the games better, which would then bring more of the community and involve the community and have them invest in what? The public schools, instead of believing, oh, well, there's only a couple public schools I can send my kid to. So if my kid is not zoned to go to that school, or if I can't get my kid into that school, then I better take them to a private school, because they're not going to get what they're getting at those other schools. A lot of times this is not actually the truth. A lot of times this is not the truth. 2 years ago, while coaching at a public school, and not one of the elite level public schools in this area, but a good public school with a football team that goes hard, we played all of the private schools, and we gave all the private schools all they wanted, but we didn't win. And so the perception becomes they're better. And why? Well, let's do the math on it. Those private schools have several Division I talents on them. We had zero. In fact, that year we had one legitimate Division I talent that for some reason did not go Division I. He went Division II, and now he's going Division I. They had people going to Power 5 schools, and not just one, multiple people going to Power 5 schools. And we gave them everything that they wanted, everything that they could handle. We just came out on the bad side of it. That's all. Just came out on the bad side of it. But also in that year, we played one of the elite public schools in the area and beat them. Why? Because of what I talked about at the beginning of everything. It doesn't matter how much your talent is, or how good, or how many people that you have on a team. If you can execute at a higher level with lesser talent, you can have success. I say all that to say there is a stigma that comes with private schools. And everybody knows what that stigma is. Nobody wants to say it though, because it makes them look away. The stigma is that white is right. When you look at these private schools, and not just where I am, I mean, in most places, when you look at the private schools are normally predominantly white. Outside of what? Outside of the athletic sports. Outside of football, basketball. The baseball team is predominantly white. The volleyball team is predominantly white. The soccer team, the flag football team, in some respects, right? But the football and the basketball teams, full of brothers, full of sisters. Because those people send their kids to those schools because whether they say it or not, their thought process is, oh, well, predominantly white over there. And white is right. Why do the public schools that are higher, that are the more well-known, well-established public schools, why do they have the level of people who want to go there? You guessed it, because the perception is, well, it's more white people over there. And because it's more white people over there, it's smarter over there. They're doing more over there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, as a teacher for 20 years, 20 years, I just finished 20. As a teacher for 20 years, you can go to the worst school that you've ever seen. And if you're an invested parent, you can get all the benefits and all of the things that you could get at the best school that you can name. The only difference is going to be what you put into it. And if you look at the schools that are elite in every aspect, what do you see? Parent involvement, parent buy-in, parent holding kids accountable, kids holding kids accountable because they know their parents are at home. What do you see at every low achieving school? No parent involvement, no parent accountability. The same parent that's not involved at your public school with any extracurricular activities or helping or being involved will take their kid to a private school and all of a sudden become the greatest parent volunteer in the history of parent volunteers. Meanwhile, you'll have people like me saying, well, if you did that over here and over there and over there, then guess what? It would all be better. It would all be better. You have people willing to have their kids go to one school and sit and not play for 3 years because there are Division I FBS level guys in front of them, girls in front of them, instead of bringing them to another school where they get the opportunity to play right now, and yet they say that they're doing it for the kids' future. Houseway? Make it make sense. So what we're always afraid to say is the obvious. Oh, we don't believe in these schools. Why? Because it's a little bit rougher over there. There are fights over there. Oh my gosh. Somebody used some curse words over there. I don't want my kid in that element. Meanwhile, not understanding that if they just invested in that element wouldn't be what it is. Because the kids take their cue from the adults. The kids take their cue from the adults. If the adults aren't accountable, the kids won't be accountable. and vice versa. But we're always afraid to say the things that have to do with race. I don't know why. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have the conversation. Why are we so afraid to admit that race plays a part in almost everything that happens in our society? Today, we can have that conversation. If you're listening, to all of the people who are listening, because I'm looking to all the people who are following, leave a comment. I want to hear from you. Why are we so afraid to say that race plays a part in everything that we do? Notice I didn't say racism. I just said race. I'm going to explain more. You just got to stay tuned. This is Talk Spicy on the Riptide Media Network.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Spicy, Riptide Media Network. Make sure that you are streaming us wherever on YouTube at the Bleacher Brothers or at Coach Gene Clemens. Make sure that you are following on X at Gene Clemens or at Bleacher Brothers. On Facebook, my Facebook account, Coach Gene Clemens, the Football Game Plan Facebook account. On Twitch at Coach Gene Clemens. On Instagram at Gene Clemens. So on and so forth as we go on. Coming up at the top of the hour, I'll be joined by Coach Whit Lesure of Bridgton Academy for our Zebra Stripes podcast. You won't want to miss it. We'll be talking basketball because that's what we talk on Zebra Stripes. I'm looking forward to talking with Coach Whit about his Boston Celtics back in the NBA Finals again and all of that getting started tomorrow. I'm really excited. I know many of you are excited as well, especially if you are a Prize Picks fan. If you haven't been paying attention, you need to pay attention because there's money out there to be had. If you are a Prize Picks kind of person, I'm not even, sponsored by Prize Picks. I should, though. Y'all should throw me a couple dollars. I know I got a small following, but Prize Picks, holla at your boy. One of the things that was in the news was that the Negro League stats were added to the regular baseball accounting stats. And I saw that a lot of it was met with cheers, people saying, well, about time, this makes sense. But then also a lot of it was met with pushback, with trepidation, with I don't know how I feel about it. So, because in baseball, all of those stats really meant something, right? And so it got me thinking, right? Because sometimes I don't know if it's being cynical, right? Or if I'm seeing something in a way that maybe other people haven't seen it, or maybe that you've seen it and you just haven't addressed it. You haven't said anything. You didn't know how to put it into the right context. But I thought about it and I'm like, why now? I know it's crazy to say it like that, but I couldn't help but think to myself, why now? Why is it okay to count these stats now? Why is it okay to bring the stats in now? And when I started thinking about it, the only thing I could come back to was, oh, nobody cares about these stats anymore. I know. It's super cynical. It makes it seem as if there wasn't goodwill involved in it. And I know maybe there was. My only pushback is, when have you ever seen entities like this that have fought this for so long, all of a sudden just turn and goodwill? So I have to be skeptical about it because it's something I haven't seen before. And the truth is that these accounting stats, these stats that used to mean everything to baseball, the home run record, triple crowns, batting average title winners, steals, none of those stats mean anything anymore. You want to know how I know that they don't mean anything? Is because once the steroid era hit and they had names of people who they thought, not even was confirmed, not even we ever had anything to stop them, just they thought, they act like their records don't exist. When people talk about the home run record, they still want to go back to before Barry Bonds. They want to go back to before Barry Bonds. Now, I'm not talking about Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa because they admitted it, right? They admitted things. But they want to go back to before Barry Bonds. And why? Because they don't look at that as the real statistical, even though they can't get it out of here. They don't look at it as real. So now that the stats have been all fudged up and messed up, it's okay if the leaders of every single statistical category, the top 5 of every statistical category, in the history of baseball is now littered with black faces. It's okay now. It's okay now because these stats don't mean anything. They were hollowed, right? They were hollowed ground. They were sacred when all the faces were white. They were sacred. And again, this isn't political for me because I don't know what the political gain would be. It's not political. It's just what I'm observing. It's just what I'm observing. Oh, well, now let them in. And then I went even deeper into my brain and went, yo, if all of the Negro League stats are now integrated into Major League Baseball, does that devalue the history and the memory of the Negro League? Whenever things get more popular, whenever things are up, whenever things are going well, you want to know what the history books tell us that America does when any time that things are looking up for black people in this country. You know what the history books show? They try to integrate it. Every time things are at the highest level, when they've been shunned, right? This is what I'm talking about. In history books, it tells you black people tried to be involved in X. They were rejected. They were told, start your own. Do it yourself. So then, what did black people do? Because this is what we do, contrary to popular belief, when people say we just want handouts. Handouts, by the way, that everyone else has gotten except for us. They go, okay, we'll get to the business. And they start running it up on their side. And what do they do when they run it up? Somebody from that side goes, oh, we accept you now. Welcome. And they integrate it, therefore wiping out what used to be something great that black people created. I'm not saying it's racist. I'm just saying it's an observation, right? This is what happens. I haven't read the entire story on it. I don't know the entire background on it. All I know is the Cliff's notes, right? So bear with me. There was a hedge fund created, and I'm not exactly sure if the hedge fund is created with all black women, but I know that the hedge fund was created to try to invest in black women businesses. They had the nerve. Now, this is private money. This isn't taxpayers' money. This is private money. They had the nerve to take them and say that it was illegal for them to discriminate against everybody else because they wanted to essentially bless and empower black women. Oh, no. You can give your money to everyone else. You can't just pinpoint black women. Here's the problem. The amount of investment, private money investment that go towards black businesses, the amount of money, period, that goes towards black businesses is less than 1% of all the money that is invested. I am pretty sure that whatever the money that they were going to invest in these black women to allow them to continue to reach their goals and their dreams that they were going to get money back from if they were successful, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't skew that number. I'm positive it wouldn't skew less than 1% of billions of dollars. They used legislature that was created to try to give black people the equality that they were seeking in order to keep these people from helping black people. It is the craziest, most ironic thing I've ever seen. And I can't get past this one question. Why would you do it? Like, why would you stop them? What's the reasoning for stopping them from blessing these Black women entrepreneurs who have businesses that they believe are good enough to invest in so that they can then live the same American dream that everybody else wants to live? What's the end goal? What did you solve? What did you make better? How did you improve on the design? I had all the questions, and I'm not going to have any answers. You know why? Because when we start looking for the answers, everything will then get political. Everything will then get split and divided. Instead of people just telling the truth. We were afraid. We were afraid that if this Black entity started giving money to Black entrepreneurs and build them up, that they would do what? Start doing that for themselves. And now all of a sudden, we know what happens when they all become unified and get together. It goes up. Anytime they unify and get together, it's up. I think about those things. Right? Like, I think about the Caitlin Clark situation. And I call it a situation because nobody wants to just tell the truth. Nobody wants to just say the obvious. I said this, by the way, I said this before on my show many weeks ago. The issues are not anything about physical violence against Caitlin Clark. The issues aren't even in the WNBA at all. You haven't heard Caitlin Clark herself say anything about this stuff. And I'll talk more about it with Coach Whit when we have him on, but you haven't heard her say anything. You want to know what the issue is? The issue is that there are more white people in this country than any other race. That's the issue. And we root for our own. We rock with our own. Y'all really think I have a question. Do white people really think they're the reason why Tiger Woods is so popular? If so, then why is it that everything they did was to market Tiger Woods to people who look like me? They didn't whitewash Tiger Woods. He was already, to a certain extent, that. Went to Stanford, grew up proper, right? Was around a bunch of white people because that's what's in the sport. Married a white woman. Like, he had already done the job for them. Why do you think they kept marketing him in a way that we took pride in him? Because our dollar is the untapped market in golf. They already got the majority's dollar. So now let's juxtapose that with Caitlin Clark. You want to know some of the most popular women in the WNBA? Like, not talented. We're not putting talent in it. The most popular women in the WNBA. Sue Bird, she's retired. She doesn't even play anymore. She's still one of the most popular women in the WNBA. Sue Bird, in my opinion, was never the best point guard in the game. She was always one of in her early years. And then over the last maybe 10 years of her career, she wasn't even that. She was just a good point guard. She's one of the most popular women in the WNBA. Breanna Stewart, one of the most popular women in the WNBA. Sabrina Ionescu, one of the most popular women in the WNBA. Diana Taurasi, one of the most popular women in the WNBA. It's not based off of sexuality. In fact, I'll prove it, right? It's not based off sexuality. Sue Bird, nobody knew that Sue Bird didn't like men for years. I'm talking publicly. Nobody knew. When she came out, her popularity skyrocketed. So it's not based off of heterosexuality or not being heterosexual. Breanna Stewart is extremely popular, right? She's not straight. She's not heterosexual. That stuff doesn't matter in the game. So let's X that out. What's the only other reason it could be? What's the only other reason that these women are the most popular women in the WNBA? Or some of the most popular women in the WNBA? Because they're in the minority in the WNBA. And the minority in the WNBA is the majority in our country. So now, where's the untapped dollars at? The untapped dollars are coming from the majority that says, I want to see Sabrina Ionescu, who's a Kobe descendant. I want to see Breanna Stewart, who is like Candace Parker. I want to see a legend like Diana Taurasi, who's a 3-point, specialist. I want to see a leader like Sue Bird, who's been doing it for so long. And I want to see the girl who dared to take down the predominantly Black dominant teams in college. I want to see her try to do the same thing in the pros. Never forget that Caitlin Clark had a freshman season and a sophomore season and half of a junior year where nobody in the overall public paid her attention. No casuals paid her attention. I've known about Caitlin Clark since she came out in the recruiting class, and guess what? She wasn't Paige Beckers. She wasn't Angel Reese. She wasn't Cardosa. Those girls were all ahead of her for a reason, because they were better or perceived to be better coming out of high school. What changed? Nothing changed. They went to programs that were highly competitive for time. They were highly competitive with talent. She went to a program where she was the only one. Where she was the only one at that level. And she did exactly what you would expect a star to do, or somebody who's really good to do. She balled out. You're not going to take it away from her. But her star came because she and her predominantly white Iowa team beat South Carolina in the semifinals, and then went head to head with LSU, who looked pretty much the same as South Carolina, all Black, and came up short. So now there's a button heads because it's Caitlin Clark. Oh, well, she's this and she's that. But it's Angel Reese, because Angel Reese, her star rose the exact same time as Caitlin Clark's star rose. Nobody talks about it. They are, and will forever be linked. Because nobody was talking about Angel Reese until they got to the championship game, and she did the "You Can't See Me" in front of Caitlin Clark, after Caitlin Clark did the "You Can't See Me" to another team before that. And they killed Angel Reese for it. All of the white pundits killed her for it. All of the people that looked like Angel Reese, you know what they did? They supported her. They ran it up. She went from a couple hundred or a few 100,000 followers on Instagram to over 1 million in a day. Sponsorships, all the deals, on talk shows, podcasts, national attention. It was Angel Reese, Angel Reese, Angel Reese, Angel Reese. And every time throughout her senior year, even though she balled out, anytime there was anything that went wrong or didn't, or nobody could explain, they immediately thought something negative. And at that exact same time, Caitlin Clark was doing things that were negative, body language, right? How she was acting on the court, but she was still balling out. Nobody mentioned a word about it. No one mentioned a word about the attitude. They let her fly. Why? Because she was lighting it up. She was being looked at by the casuals of the majority now, as opposed to just the people who all love basketball. So yes, she's a star, right? But being a star don't mean that you automatically go into the next league and ball out. Yo, here's something that you may not have known about the WNBA. It has always been, since its inception, a more physical league than the NBA at that exact same time. Ta-da! We're going to talk more about that, and we're going to talk more basketball and things to come. I'll be joined by Whit Lesure when we come back. This is Talk Spicy on the Riptide Media Network.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Okay, men. This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Zebra Stripes Podcast. I am Coach Gene Clemens, joined as always by my main man, Coach Whit Lesure of Bridgton Academy. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. That is a ripping and running start right there. So it's a good thing I did my stretching and dynamic warm up to get going here.
Yeah, and I wanna warn you, because just in case any of you people or whomever that would normally be watching the Zebra Stripes podcast or listening to the Zebra Stripes podcast, we're going to talk about some things in basketball and I think in life that's going to deal with race. I just want you to be prepared for it. I've been talking about it all day. I have strong feelings on it. I don't think it's anything necessary to racism, and I definitely don't think this is political. But I wanted to say that because I want you to be aware as I come flying hot out of this seat with what's going on today. I know tomorrow, the Celtics will be welcoming in the Dallas Mavericks, and we're going to talk a lot about that game and those matchups and all of the fun basketball minutia stuff that you love from a Zebra Stripes podcast. But I wanted to start here with there's been a lot of discussion about Caitlin Clark, and more specifically came to a head with the foul that Caitlin Clark suffered being pushed over by Kennedy Carter of Chicago. And I think a lot of times when these things happen, I think people play their hands, right? It gives people the opportunity to say what they probably have always wanted to say and didn't have the balls to say. I just wonder, and I'm going to ask you this to start with, why is it so difficult for us to just say things like this is about race? Why is it so hard for us to say that?
Well, I don't know if it's hard to say, hey, this is about race. I don't think that's hard. I think now going and defining how it is about race or what the actual, meat on the bone is there, that's what people want to stay away from. So to say, hey, let's have a talk about race. Okay. But now let's have that honest conversation. That's a different story that I think people struggle with.
So I'll give you what I was saying before you came on before the last break. I think that people undersell the fact that Tiger Woods' popularity had nothing really to do with white people, because golf has already had that demographic locked up. That a lot of what made Tiger Woods was the fact that they were able to sell golf to people like me, who had never played golf, never thought about playing golf until I saw Tiger Woods swing a golf club. And then all of a sudden I was swinging, like literally within a week, I was swinging a golf club for the first time. And I know a lot of people who never watched golf that look like me, who started watching golf because of Tiger Woods. And I believe that was the market inefficiency. They had the majority, they didn't have us. And so now when you juxtapose that with women's basketball and you look at who are some of the most popular women in the WNBA, they tend to be white. We're talking about like from the casuals looking in, not just the hardcores. Sabrina Ionescu, who is a Kobe Bryant disciple. You've got Diana Taurasi, who's a legend. You've got your Sue Birds, who was a legend, and she doesn't even play anymore, and yet she's still one of the most popular faces in the WNBA. And you have Breanna Stewart, who is another really extremely good basketball player, but you don't hear a lot of day in, day out talk about Asia Wilson, and she's hands down the best basketball player in the WNBA, and she's been that for the past 3 to 4 years.
Well, I'll say this. That's a little bit of a transition there, but with a common denominator, obviously. Tiger Woods, I think you're right about that. I almost, but I'm not sure, like, percent of, like, popularity, like, because one thing, sport culture, recognizes talent, supreme talent. So he was gonna be big because he was supremely talented, and then he was chasing with that talent, arguably the best in Nicholas, but whatever. Okay, so that was gonna, he was dominating, and that gets recognized in sport. And then, oh, by the way, I think the other piece, I mean, that you're right about, I mean, color, I think he did impact the game in that way, but I also think that, like, sports likes unique. That's the other thing. So in this case, the uniqueness happened to be the color of his skin. In Victor Wembanyama's case, the uniqueness is, wait a second, who is this, absurdly. Okay, you're not buying that?
No, I'm not buying that. I was with you until you brought Wembanyama in.
Well, I'm just saying, maybe he's the wrong example. I'm just saying uniquely, people that bring something slightly different to the table. That's what I was trying to say. Maybe Wembanyama doesn't, but
okay. And so my thing is, right along the same lines, and I think you articulated it perfectly. Caitlin Clark, two years ago, nobody knew who Caitlin Clark was outside of people who follow basketball, like women's basketball. She didn't become popular until almost the end of her junior year when she beat South Carolina. And I say she because without her, they get blown out. And with her this year, they got blown out, right? She single-handedly dismantled the best basketball team that has a dynastic run going, right? And then she went up against another team that just happened to be predominantly Black as well, with some outspoken. So she is the outlier that you're talking about. She is the difference. But what that comes with is the majority. Like, if it was a Black girl at Iowa killing it, it doesn't hit the same. Why? Because Black people are already paying attention to the Black girls. But when the majority has somebody who comes and gives a quote unquote Tiger Woods-esque level of dominance, you're not just bringing in a niche group, you're bringing in the country. You're bringing in the predominance of where the commerce happens at. And now in the WNBA, those same people are looking at this and going, oh, they got something against her because she's this and she's that. When you know and I know what we saw happen to her, you see that happen all the time in basketball. And you specifically see it happen a lot in women's basketball.
Yeah, so I mean, a couple of comments. One is I agree that if we're in 1970 for sure, and probably even the 80s, like that type of foul is, and you hear this spoke about by commentators all the time. But that type of foul is a very common foul. It might not have been picked up because it was so far away from the play. So in the NBA, it might not even have been a foul way back when, right? So, but we live in a different time, and so I mean, it's a foul, and then how egregious? Good question. So, I mean, the Caitlin Clark thing, I do think there's in the desire to market, which the WNBA is obviously looking every which way to do, and that's good, saying and take advantage of the proliferation of women's sports, which is also good. I think the bird magic thing, sells. White and black, white versus black sells in the sport of basketball, and I my sense is, without any evidence, that the women's game is still in the germination stage. It's behind where the NBA is at, so that something like this I don't think is quite the same maybe in the NBA, but at this time and place in the WNBA, there's quite a thing with it. Like, it's a perfect storm. So that's one of my reactions. The other question maybe that I have for you would be this: like, was college basketball, from a historical perspective, dominated by, for those women that played, was it dominated by white women 40 years ago or 50 years ago? I'm assuming the answer is yes, honestly. Okay. The same way that the colleges restricted African Americans in the men's game, and some of that stuff, obviously, in football and basketball is well documented, whether we're talking about Bear Bryant or, Kentucky, Texas Western and all that good stuff, Glory Road.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at this and I go, well, women's basketball then, I think now, I've said it before, I'm trying to get on board, and all this stuff may get me there too, but I think is dominated by women of color. Okay, that's what I believe, and so that's what I think. I say belief, but I mean that's what I think. And so now Caitlin Clark is this, again, this outlier, is in the outlier position historically. So, and it's an opportunity for the marketing for New York to just run with it. And then the rest of us have to figure out why does it resonate with us, or what about it resonates with us.
But we know what resonates with us. There's a white girl out here trying to be the dominant force in a sport that is dominated by black women. It's that simple. And my problem is I don't know why we can't just say that and keep it pushing. Like, if we just admit to the easy, what is it called? Occam's razor, right? Occam's razor, whatever. Okay. When you're met with a problem that you can't find a definitive solution to, the easiest, simplest response is normally the correct one. Right? Like,
yeah,
it's really just that simple. Like, why was she so popular in college? I said along the same lines. If you look back at what Kelsey Plum was doing at the University of Washington, I believe it was the exact same stuff Caitlin Clark was doing, except Kelsey Plum never made it to. Except at that time, the dominant team of college was UConn. UConn, which had a very mixed group of girls, of ladies on it, right? South Carolina is almost entirely black, outside of one girl, I believe. LSU is almost entirely black outside of one girl, and she just transferred away. Oh, and their coach isn't black. But so that makes a different dynamic. Ooh, look at the white girls taking on the sisters, right? And we could just say that, like, it, because the natural reaction from a lot of people is, oh, that white girl's gonna get killed. And then when she can play, they go, oh, that white girl can ball. Like, it's always preferenced by that white girl. In the circles that talk about it, if they want to say something, they want to be honest about it, that's what they're doing. And then we act like we have to do all of these think pieces and try to figure out, no, this is what it is. It's being looked at different. She's being protected different. She's being talked about differently. And if we just say the honest truth, oh, listen, it's because we're fascinated by the white girl amongst all the black women, then all of that, then everybody else can just shut up and go, okay, well, I don't like it, but that's the truth, right? I don't like it, but that's the truth. But because we want to be like, no, this is just about her talent. Yo, she's mid. She's a mid player in the WNBA.
Well, it's too early to know that. I don't know.
It's too early to know that she's going to be great. I'm talking about right now.
Yeah.
Right now, she's mid.
Right.
Right now, she's mid. There's nothing wrong with that. She's a rookie.
Right. But but men's game and all that, there's plenty of, people are, come in as anointed, and that just has to play itself out. And then you have to separate the performance piece from the, from the marketing piece,
And those people don't get coddled. Those people don't get coddled.
How so? What do you mean?
When the anointed one, and I can't even remember the last anointed one that they've had, but let's say Wembanyama, he didn't get coddled.
No.
He came in, he balled out. He made it known, oh, I'm going to be special in this league. Even though we were like, oh, he's not there yet, but we could see it. Oh, he's going to be special in this league. Right? Like,
he didn't get coddled, right? But I mean, on the court, I think we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think she doesn't look like she's getting coddled to me on the court right.
No, I'm saying he wasn't getting coddled off the court. You think that people were excusing when he didn't play well, or like making excuses for why he wasn't? No, they just said, hey, this is the NBA, bro. He's gonna have to get stronger.
Right.
This is the NBA. He's gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah, and somewhere
he's figuring it out.
Right. And somewhere in here too is the, and it again, this also sells, but the whole, I mean, you got gender and race. So we got two, we got, race being the bigger factor in the conversation for sure, but gender as part of it, and what we expect or what our standard is, how we may, like, so we may still say things and approach, and I'm talking about whether it's the media or a casual fan or whatever, coaching, we may still approach men and women differently. I mean, I'm sure we do. So I think there's a factor in there too. But again, race being the big one. The other thing I kind of, as you were talking, I mean, again, this is the outside world, and the media a big part of it. I mean, if Caitlin's on a playground with playing, it's like she doesn't care about any of this. But now one of the realities remains the same. Like, there's a good chance the black girls on the playground are challenging her and calling her, the same things, and there's a good chance that she's talking her own smack back or doing whatever within her own personality, because that's what talented, competitive people do. They, for lack of a better term, they get after it. So then it gets cleansed, as we put it out as a product, as an entertainment product. It gets cleansed to a degree, or filtered, and then we pick it apart and kind of figure out how to make sense of it all. But
The saddest part about this for me is that Caitlin Clark didn't ask for any of this.
Right.
This isn't Caitlin Clark saying, "Oh, I was wrong."
Correct.
Oh,
Correct.
I was done. These are people who just parachuted in yesterday. And that's my issue. And if you look, that's the issue of a lot of the women who have been covering the WNBA forever. They're going, you clearly don't know about the league, because the level of physicality that y'all are complaining about, this has been the level. I said before you came on in the last segment, the WNBA since its inception has been the more physical league than the NBA. The NBA has tried to legislate all of that out. The WNBA has not.
And I'll jump in right there just to support your point completely, which is to say, again, back to my historical perspective, the NBA took the aggressiveness and the physicality out of the game because they decided that it would sell better to be a less physical, less confrontational game. And race was obviously a huge part of that conversation. And then you had things like the malice at the palace and everything else. So, I mean, the WNBA, because it hasn't been in front of the same level of eyeballs at this point, has been able to be more pure basketball, if you will, which is a physical game. So, I mean, I think you're 100% right. And the issue would be, the fun thing would, down the line, it may, they'll start selling space and skill and speed, and they'll probably, just like the NBA, legislate out some of the aggressiveness. Hey, how about this? I mean, this is an obvious one, but let's take Caitlin Clark, make her black, and make the and make the person committing the hard fouls white. Again, are we getting the same visceral reaction to the hard foul?
Interesting you said that, because I don't have an apples to apples, but I do have something extremely close. This is Angel Reese, who was talking about the fact that the way in which Caitlin Clark is being covered and officiated is different. I just want to play this real quick. It's 22 seconds. You can see the video.
This is big time for our zebra stripes people.
Yeah, she didn't get a flagrant one though. Yeah, she got a regular foul. It was the same thing. It was the same thing. But we can't pick and choose what players get flagrant fouls and flagrant ones. Oh, 100%. I was just trying to. But no, go check the clip. It's the same. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
So you can see in that clip, Angel Reese gets bowled over by the girl, the same shoulder check that Caitlin Clark got, and it was just a regular foul. In the game, by the way, they called the Caitlin Clark foul a regular foul. It was only after the backlash that came from the game afterwards that they upgraded it to a flagrant 2. So even within the game, they tried to legislate it the same, right?
Yeah.
And they couldn't because of the way in which it was perceived on the outside. I think you're 100% right about the fact that because now there's more eyeballs on it, people are saying, "Oh my gosh, this is thuggery. This is physicality. We don't need this." But this is what it's always been, and either the WNBA is going to have to go, "Hey, we're cleaning this up. We're gonna try to, market this better for everybody," or they're gonna have to say, "Hey, this is us. Accept us as we are, or go back to whatever you came to, wherever you came from." And I don't think they want that, because they want the eyeballs, to come on them. So I think this is gonna bring about change. And the only thing that Caitlin Clark really needs to do is get better. That's it. Because if she is everything that they want her to be right now, if she becomes everything that they want her to be right now, all of this goes away. All of this goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's kind of an interesting point too. Hey, if I wanted to split hairs on those two files, and I think Angel Reese is right, but if I was splitting hairs, I would say the one you'll see it in the NBA game a lot too, and they have the rim runner who's going to bury the defender right in front of the basket. Boom, that's a place where you'll see more contact than anywhere else in the game.
Fair.
Okay, so they're right. There's a slight difference there. They're both fouls. They're both. Angel Reese is right. Your point is right, but the difference would that's where you get into this world of review and wait a second, is this, and it's gotten way. We've gone far enough. My perspective is you got to go the whole way, like more reviews, more coaches' abilities to challenge, just unique, no last minute, like get the calls right. You're already down that rabbit hole this far. But, the nuances are where, because Caitlin Clark is, outside of the play and this, that, and the other thing. It's just someone, taking a nice little bump at somebody else. But, that's yeah, and it's to hear you say, hey, when Caitlin Clark gets good, the conversation goes away. See, so and in a funny way, you might be right, and so this is just a jump start, for the league. That's what this Caitlin Clark thing is. Hey, can we? Because it has been a great league with great players. It just it's fighting, gender equity. It's fighting. Who wants to watch what? So now here's another.
It's fighting lazy media. It's
Yeah,
fighting
but
lazy media.
But media have to, if it, like Caitlin Clark, the places are like they're selling tickets, and so once tickets are being sold at a lot more places than not, because we know in men's sports, not all places sell out in any of the major sports and all that. And depending on how successful your team is, I mean, there's all sorts of factors in ticket sales. But the point is, once a sport hits a critical mass, the media has no choice but to cover it. So right now there's a choice.
Whit, I want to debate you.
Okay. Well,
baseball is essentially dying as a national sport.
Right.
And yet it's still covered with the same ferocity it's always been covered with.
Yeah, I disagree. In my mind, I don't think
the same as much as I've ever known it.
Okay.
Right.
I don't think it is, but I just use Boston as an example. Like, it's not. I mean, they've got a real decision to make, because the Boston media, I mean, they obviously have their beat guys and this and that, but the mainstream media, it doesn't get anywhere near the attention. Talk shows don't give it hardly any attention. That's a real change. I mean, I wrote an article about it recently. Like, normally this would be, and no one gives a shit. So,
but Whit, they're not good.
Right. So
and the Celtics are in the championship.
Right.
So I think that might be a right.
Yeah. Now they used to be back in the day, to your pastime stuff. I mean, back in the day, the Red Sox were never any good either, obviously, for 100 some odd years, and they still were viewed as New England's team.
Were they not good, or did they just not win championships? And I'm asking that.
No, they weren't very good. They weren't very good.
Okay. Yeah. So then there is that. So then there maybe is. My point is that there's still entities that are trying to feed you baseball, right? There are entities that are trying to feed you hockey, and hockey's never even been an American sport. Like, it's not even our sport.
I say all the time, the HD TV is the best boon to hockey it's ever been. Now that you can see the puck and it's not all a fuzz.
Absolutely. And that little light they put on the puck too. I love that thing.
Yeah. No.
I love hockey. I like going to an arena and watching a hockey game. I used to go and watch the Worcester Ice Cats. I've been to the Maniacs? They may not be the Maniacs anymore, but
right.
Up there. But again, you keep getting it pushed at you, and you don't see the media having the same appetite to push the women's game at you, because when they do, and you have no other choice but to watch it because that's what's on, all of a sudden people are watching it. All they did was change the women's games this year to a to actual mainstream television, and all of a sudden it got a ton of views. Like, all they did was just give it a prime time slot, and it was able to do numbers. I think that says a lot.
Well, I do too. And look at bottom line, you're way more versed in the media than I am. So we're having a conversation about media, and that's outside. I have thoughts, but that's about it. I would say this. I mean, I'm back to the culture thing and less race, but our culture is still, if you put Jan Stevenson, famous golfer, like if you put golfers in a short skirt, tennis players, same thing. I think that's the sexist part of the whole thing. Like we're still figuring out as a culture whether we're going to take women as seriously as we take men, and then how do we, and then women have played that both ways, right? For a while, feminists obviously were railing against, anything. We'll use this Sports Illustrated swimsuit thing, but you could talk about just the whole, women not in locker rooms and, as reporters or whatever it is. So I think we're still, we're making huge strides, and you give a great example about how just putting the games on and at reasonable times makes all the difference in the world. I think we're still trying to figure out, how we want to do this. And then meanwhile, the media is right there in the middle, kind of doing this dance, maybe ready to go whichever way they feel like the general public is going to go, whatever is going to sell. Because here's my last thing, and it's another tangent, but to my whatever's going to sell. I've said it before. I just can't believe the freaking what is the UFC, right? Is it UFC? What's the Ultimate Fighting?
Yeah, UFC.
The UFC. I can't believe that is not. I can't believe it's marketed and put out there, and there's not the outrageousness. But meanwhile, we're having a conversation here for 40 minutes about a bump between two athletes like it's some crime, and there are people literally trying to kill each other in other sports that are being pay-per-viewed and sold out. And meanwhile, we're legislating all the freaking aggression out of football and basketball, two of our most popular sports going. There's just contradictions galore, and I do believe, like, hockey's not done it a little bit, but they're not doing it. And look at back to your beginning, race is part of it, man. Race is a big part of that, and a bunch of white people. Not only, I don't know the UFC thing, so I'm talking out of my ass, but seems to me my anecdotal stuff is a bunch of white people are watching some UFC people just knock each other's heads off, and they got no problem with it. But again, you put it into sports, and now you get into the thuggery and just old school stereotype stuff. That's what I think. It's really strange.
I think the funniest part about it for me is that I've been saying that this is that Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark is Magic Bird the entire time, and I can't believe that the media won't just treat it like Magic Bird. Like, people keep saying, "Oh, you got to protect her. She's the reason you have this. She's the reason you have that." Larry Bird wasn't protected. They were trying to take Larry Bird's head off, and Larry Bird was like, "Bro, you bring it. I'm right here. I'm gonna give you everything you want. You get too close, I'm gonna punch on you." Like that's the thing that gets us, emotionally invested. Not this coddling and making excuses for, and that's not the way. And the fact that the media has history to show that this is the way that you can build up and grow a league as a media entity in the way you cover it. Yet they've decided that they want to go with all of these women are against this one this one woman is really just silly to me. I'll transition because I want us to talk about Celtics Mavs. It's the more I think about it, the more I'm excited about this NBA Finals, right? The more I think about it, the more I'm excited. The more I'm convinced that the Mavericks are going to win in 5. By the way, I know last time we talked, I said Magic in 5. I mean Mavericks in 5.
Well, you said that if Porzingis doesn't play.
Yeah, and now I don't think it matters. Like the more I think about it, I don't think it matters.
And I think, you know what? I mean, again, you've had a week or longer, right, to get ready for it. So to some degree, you know, you've had too much time to think it, you know. But I think you're everybody. The longer we've sat and waited for this, everybody has given the Mavs more credit and a chance as the days and hours have gone by. So you're on board, including myself, by the way. Although I did say, okay, without Porzingis, it's 7 Celtics, and I might even be leaning they don't win. I will tell you this. Depending on how Porzingis plays in game 1 and what he looks like, if he re-injures himself, all of that stuff, I obviously would like to jump back on this pod, you know, long before the series is over. But I'll you know, I think game 1 will tell. Well, let's put it this way: the first 2 games are gonna tell a lot. So I'll stick with the Celtics. I just think I think. You know, I think everybody is, you know, Luka Magic, man. I mean, Luka's the real deal, and Kyrie is, you know, you know, his best self. You know, he was quoted in Boston recently as saying that some of the things that happened in his time in Boston, he's not proud of. He wasn't his best self, including coming back. And I mean, he just. those two guys present a problem, but yeah, I don't, you know, Mavs in 5. I'd be happy to stake $100 on the nose with you if that won't happen, but that's not a fair bet. I'm not sure what the other side of that, because I don't think it's going to be Celtics in 5 either. But when the Celtics win, we're going to say, if they do, and I don't think they will, but if they do, we're going to say, you know what? They were the best team all year. Should have known it all along. Just bought into the Mavs deal. Mavs took a great step. Maybe next year's their turn when the Celtics face the struggle that, say, Denver did this year. But we should have known better. Like, that's the way the narrative is going to flip. I mean, so the media is ready to freaking make a killing either way. The media is in a good spot right now because when the Celtics win, it's the culmination, and when the Mavs win, there's nothing like an upset.
Yeah, I would. So we're just playing media games, right?
First I don't know what we're doing. I'm not sure what we're doing.
I'm saying if we're playing media games, the media push is for the Mavericks to win. Because then they can say the Mavericks. There's the Jason Kidd winning as a player and a coach with the same team. There's the Kyrie back to Boston. There's the Kristaps missing out on the championship by being traded away from Dallas. Like they were better. It was addition by subtraction almost. And then there's the implosion of the Celtics, who were the best team all year and should have ran away with this, and the stars aligned perfectly, and they didn't get it done. By the way,
and you didn't, and as part of that implosion, obviously, the you know, you can decide where you want to put it, but Jason Tatum, the top 5 player who wants to be a superstar, did not, you know, with a good cast, didn't get it done. So that's part of the
and the Jaylen Brown, who's being paid like a superstar, didn't get it done.
Yeah,
like
both. Oh yeah.
You can't get $300 million and you know, not get blame. You got to get blame when you get $300 million. But But I'm thinking about this. The latest episode of Mind the Game, which continues to be excellent, by the way.
Yep.
Latest episode of Mind the Game, JJ Redick and LeBron James, they like them some Joe Mazzulla.
Okay.
They both gave a lot of credit to Joe Mazzulla and some of the moves that he made. They said there was a I think it was maybe game 1, I forget which one it was, but Mazzulla intentionally fouled up 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was game 1.
I think so, but I remember it. Yeah.
Intentionally fouled up 6. They both thought it was genius. Like, don't know why more people don't do it. Like, preserve the two score game.
Yeah.
They talked about the double high pick that they use a lot, and how they operate off of that. And so I thought it was very interesting that not everybody is as low on Joe Mazzulla as a lot of people would have you believe.
Well, the Boston media, there was an article in the Boston paper today, might have been yesterday, but Mazzulla has definitely had a better year. He's had time. He's more comfortable. Clearly, I think you can. I mean, even as a casual observer, you can say, look at his use of timeouts a little different. He gets on guys. I mean, so again, he's got more experience, and we've talked about it here before. He's got 2 veteran assistants with him, his own people. So all of that, adds up to he's done a better job, because one of the things I read was, where's the coaching edge? I think we even talked about it, but Mazzulla or Kidd, who's got the coaching edge? And conventional wisdom tells you it's Kidd because everything sort of you've laid out. This article was saying, it might be Mazzulla, and I think it's a wash. I think it's one of those series that whoever happens to possibly make the best moves in game to game, et cetera, is going to be judged as having. I don't think there's a clear, I just, again, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
So what I think it will ultimately come down to is that the Magic have the more nuclear option. I mean, the Mavericks have the more nuclear option, right? Like at any point in time, Kyrie and Luka could just go for 80. Like,
yeah, I mean, and I think that's a bigger problem. Obviously, late fourth quarter. I think if the Mavericks are close late, I think they've got a distinct advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Celtics defense as well as their offense has been highly rated. I think the Mavs are going to be tested in a way they haven't been tested. Neither team has been tested the way that they're going to be in this series. So that'll be interesting to see if Luka and Kyrie, or one or both, can be as efficient as they will need to be and sustain the level of defense that everyone's been talking about they've been playing since the All-Star break. So, something's got to give for both of these teams, because you do have the best 2 teams playing, and something is going to give. And one argument is the 2 best players, Luka and Kyrie, will win the series, and that we'll all say, well, that makes sense. God damn, I should have put money on that one in Vegas. But the other's going to be, hey, the best team won, Boston, and they're such different styles, basically, that that's why I say something's got to give. Who has more to lose in this series?
Well, clearly Boston has more to lose.
Yeah,
right?
that was a softball. I wrote that to you in the pregame.
Although I would say Kyrie has a lot to lose.
Yeah.
Kyrie has a lot to lose, because he's right now he is living in a resurgence. Although I don't really think it's a resurgence. I don't actually even buy what you said he said to Boston. I think he's been this Kyrie, and the difference is that he's not being he doesn't have pressure on him.
Yeah,
right?
that's not what, but that's maybe, but people, reporters, Doris Burke, others seem to be saying, and I'm again, Angle, I get that. Even, I mean, if I took Kyrie's own quotes, if you take him at his own word, he's in a good place. He actually talked about personal difficulties in one of the stories I was reading that I don't know about all of them. It didn't get into them, but he himself was talking about how, he is beyond some personal things and blah, blah, blah. And so look at, he's clearly a more, again, happy wife, happy life, same sort of thing. Happy off court guy, happy on court guy,
Okay.
that helps.
Yeah, no, I just look at it and I'm like, just seems like the same Kyrie, like on the court. I'm just talking about on the court.
Yeah.
I
think, yeah. I mean, it may in part come back. It may come back to the point you made in our last episode, which is the idea that, he is supremely comfortable in the number 2 role.
He might be the greatest number 2 ever.
Right.
He might be the great. Like if we, you know what? That's a better. Who's the best number 2 ever? If it's not Kyrie, who is it? Right. I think Scottie Pippen got a lot of praise as being the Robin. Right. But who's the best Robin ever?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. We got to put our list together.
Well, because if you think about the Celtics,
Elgin Baylor with Jerry West.
Yep, but they didn't win.
I mean, they did win one, I believe, or together, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they didn't.
I thought Jerry West never won a championship. I could be wrong though. I should know this because he's a lady.
I know they had the champagne and the balloons and the. What about Kevin McHale to Larry Bird?
Possibly. I was thinking, who would you consider Robin if you go back to to Bob Cousy?
Well, I'd say I don't think that Bill Russell was because Bob Cousy would say himself he might be the great number 2. Bill Russell was number 1.
But in the moment, Bob Cousy did not think he was Robin.
Right. No, but he
That's
knew.
That's what I'm saying. Like he thought he was Batman.
Yeah, I mean that may be true, but he knew. No, I think he knew where Red was.
I'm serious. Like I was watching these I've been watching these documentaries, and they show all of these interviews with Bob Cousy. That dude did not think he was playing second fiddle.
But I don't think that goes to how you. But he's also an incredibly intelligent man and was an incredibly smart basketball player. So he knew where he stood. He knew it took Russell to achieve that dominance they achieved. The same way, I mean, Kyrie knows, I'm saying on a certain level, he's not Robin, but he knows maybe that his game really blossoms when there's a superstar that for somehow, somewhat, yeah.
So then, like because it becomes, there was at one point in time where he was Batman, right? And Cousy, I mean, because now I'm thinking about how to
Russell.
How to. So he took a lesser role to become Robin, but was he as good of a Robin as Kyrie? So then I go, okay, Kobe at one point in time was Robin.
Yep.
The first three-peat, he's Robin.
Yep.
Does that mean he is Robin? That he's the best number 2 of all time? Or do we acknowledge him as a Batman because in the second iteration, the 24 version of him, he was Batman?
Well, the media version again was that he was, uncomfortable because of all the probably how hard he worked and this and that. He didn't want to play under Shaq's shadow, ego, and maybe lack of, determination, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's a great example.
To his legacy's own detriment, though, if we're being honest. Like if we're really being honest, if he doesn't take the stance that he takes, and Shaq and Kobe are able to go through a 13-year run, they win probably 8 or 9 championships.
Totally agree. I mean, that's the conversation we might be having about Durant someday.
Yeah. Like Durant's gonna have to, like, did hubris get in the way of more championships? And is hubris going to get in the way of the Boston Celtics? Like,
yeah, no, it's a fair question. I don't think it is, like, because they seem, and I'll give Missoula credit for it. I'm a big team guy, obviously, so I just think it is their time. So I think that, and so I don't think that. I think there's nothing but a desire to go and win 4 games, be the first team in this series to win 4 games. I think they are hell bent on doing that, and they're going to try to get the Mavericks to get to that. They're going to try to break them. They're going to try to get to them and just say, nope, you had a good run, but you ain't doing it. The same way as if the Celtics had run up against, Denver or something like that. The Denver, would have had that psychological advantage maybe if they could have used it. So that's what I think the Celtics. I don't see this hubris getting in the way of the Celtics. I really don't.
Do you think that because I was trying to figure out who has the defensive advantage, and I almost give
clearly the Celtics. Clearly, like big
here's
time.
why I originally thought Celtics.
It's Celtics for sure, but systematically, I mean the Mavs and some of the things I've read and all that. Systematically, they are playing good, and so they, the Celtics are going to have to play beyond their ISO ball, which again is another reason why I'm so hell bent on Porzingis playing. If the Mavs play their system defense the way they're playing it, and the Celtics resort to some of their worst offensive tendencies, then look at Boston's in trouble. But if you said on paper who's the better defensive team, it's not even freaking close.
Here's my one pushback. Who's better equipped to defend ISO ball?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think the Celtics are. I mean,
yeah,
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think the bottom line is ISO ball is a recipe for losing. And I don't even think like the thing with the Mavs is, see, the Mavs ISO ball is different than the Celtics. The Celtics, it's stand around, one player dominate the ball with the usage, and then take a tough shot. Okay, and that can be the Celtics a lot. The Mavs are incredibly efficient because those two guys either get theirs at an incredibly efficient rate, okay, or they're making a play, whether that's the lob to the rim or outside for the other guy. So the Mavs, I don't even view that as ISO ball. I view the Mavs as supreme ability to create an offensive advantage with one player. So he's a bull. Luka's a bull in a china closet who creates an advantage, who makes a play for himself or someone else. Kyrie is a wizard, okay, able to score the ball around the rim like Steph, magically finishing or, taking big shots. That's different than when the Celtics do their thing and end up settling for difficult shots.
Yeah, but when the Celtics are clicking, it's that one guy creating pass, shot.
Yeah, they don't do that quite as much. They'll do some of what you're talking about there. They'll do it. I'm not saying they don't, because they do, but they don't do as much as the Mavs. So
yeah, I just think that's when they're at their best.
They do that in. I think they're at their best when it's more traditional basketball, when the ball is moving And that's where when Porzingis is or off the screen and roll or horn set you were talking about with the two high guys.
Yep.
I mean, they play a little more traditional basketball is my point. And then they get to the boom, 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 pass, pass, pass thing. Or the transition game. The Celtics transition game, I think, is better.
Yeah.
You know,
I think what makes what again, the more I look at it, just points me to Dallas. And I hope I'm wrong because I want to see a good series. But like they had to go through the Clippers. 2 to 3 man isolation type of basketball. They had to go through the Thunder, 2 to 3 man isolation basketball. Then they had to go through the Timberwolves, very similar with isolation. Like they're going to be ready to defend those two guys, the two guys that you have that are the major threats as isolation players. Like they're going to be uniquely ready for that. Whereas we'll see if Tatum and or I mean, I guess, do you put Tatum on Luka? Do you put Jaylen Brown?
No, Jaylen Brown.
You got to put Brown on Luka, right?
Yeah,
because you can't risk Tatum on Luka.
Correct. Well, and it's not as good a matchup. He's not as good a defensive player.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like, because he's so long right. and athletic.
He'll just get right by and use his strength. Blah blah blah. Hey, here's what I got. I've been a little wishy-washy on some of my predictions. So I'm saying with or without Porzingis, it's Boston in 6. Okay, with or without him. So cut the better team is going to win, and we're all this has just been a big media hype up on good for Dallas. All due respect, but not their time. If Boston wins in 5, which I can also see happening, or maybe even 4, sweeps them. Boston wants to make a statement. Win in 4. So I say if Boston wins in 4 or 5, you send me a bottle of fine tequila. If the Mavs win in 5, I will send you a bottle of whatever it is that I know you're a big Tanqueray guy in this, these hot months, but
yeah, but I've been on the tequila, so we'll go there. Fine.
I think that's a fair bet.
Let's go Michael Jordan status. Let's go a bottle of Cincoro.
Okay.
A bottle of Cincoro tequila on the line.
With a 5-game or less.
Yep. If it's in 5, either way, if it's in 5, bottle of Cincoro heading your way.
Love it.
I like it. Ladies and gentlemen, you are witness. So there's no shake needed. You're the witness. It is a bottle of Michael Jordan's own Cincoro tequila on the line if the Mavericks or the Celtics win in 5. That is Coach Whit. Anything that you got to say to the people before we get out of here?
No, I think that close says it all.
Absolutely. He doubled down on the Celtics. And now I'm nervous because he hasn't sounded this confident in a long time. I'm a little nervous now, but I'm still sticking with Dallas. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Coach Whit Lesure. Follow him at Whit Lesure on X. Follow me at Gene Clemens everywhere. We appreciate it. Until next time, we'll see you guys after game 2. Peace.